Hey everybody, welcome back to J&J Tabletop. Today I have something very special for you. I'm really excited to announce the first installment in a two-part video of our first annual spelling bee with Jake and Lee from This Crits. Jake, obviously you know. Lee, you should know. Stay tuned, I'll tell you more about what we're going to do. All right, so I might have lied a little bit about the spelling bee. That's not exactly what's going on. But it is a two-part video. We do have our special guest, Lee, here. You can find the information for his channel in the description. And what we're doing today is we're going over utility spells. In fact, we're going to choose our favorites from every level, starting with cantrips. And if you want to find our favorite combat spells, then you should check out the video that we did on Lee's channel, which is basically the same thing, but it's combat spells. I'm going to start with Jake because this is our home turf. For a cantrip, a utility cantrip, what's number one for you?
I went with one of my favorite spells in the entire game, and that is Mage Hand. Do you need to do something from 30 feet away? Do you need to touch something, push a button, pick an object up, whatever it is? Mage Hand is there. It's one of the most versatile things. You can be creative with it, and it can get you out of a lot of trouble, especially with traps and things like that. So I went with Mage Hand. How about you, Lee?
Mage Hand's a good one. I'm very lazy. I would definitely use it to pick up like the clicker from just a little bit too far away. But I think I had to give it to Minor Illusion for myself. You know, if you're literally on the internet reading about D&D and or even D&D YouTube, you've seen hundreds of thousands of videos talking about how powerful and strong the simple cantrip Minor Illusion can be. Between sounds, illusions themselves, it's very versatile in terms of what it can do, and honestly it's really fun to use as well. You know, Mage Hand is great, but I mean, you can't make a little picture of a guy in a top hat in your hand with Mage Hand, can you?
It does seem to be the main use I use for Minor Illusion is like, have you seen this person? It's like, here you go. That's a good pick. That's a good pick. I'll give you that. I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
Yeah, there isn't. There really isn't.
I'm not going to disagree with you guys for everything, but I love prestidigitation. On top of the fact that it's fun to say, you know, prestidigitation. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it is fun to say. I mean, how many syllables you have there?
Actually, if you could spell that in the comment section, I'd appreciate it. It is a
Thank
spelling
God,
video.
This is not a spelling bee. My God. Sorry, we just had a total side talk about pizza in Connecticut and New England pizza. So let us know in the comments below if Boston or Connecticut pizza is better.
Or New York. That's the real thing I was getting at here. Connecticut is not the pizza capital of the United States, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Get back to the recording. Jake's so done with us.
So yes, Jake is very upset. Cantrips out of the way. First level spells. Lee, what's your favorite first level spell for utility?
Silvery Barbs, 100%. Now, what are you doing that little mustache wiggle for? What is this? Silvery Barbs is one of those spells, and I think that everyone will agree with me that there's a bit of power creep in D&D 5th edition. And Silvery Barbs is one of those spells that is incredibly polarizing. So much so that I know a significant amount of people that ban it. That being said, many people think that Silvery Barbs is only a combat spell, but it is not just a combat spell. You can use it as a reaction to a triggering creature. That is not combat, which effectively just means if you fail the roll, oh, never mind, try again. Sure, you got, advantage that you can do after the fact with that, but I mean, there's a lot to it. So what are you humming? What are you humming about?
Well, I kind of was triggered by your choice because I do see that as a combat spell, but you have convinced me in your argument that it could count as utility, but it could be a benefit. I kind of like your take on that. That's cool. I ended up going with Find Familiar. You can use it for exploration. You can use it to maybe grab aggro in the right situation. You can cast Dragon's Breath on it. That's like the thing everybody says is broken. You just have a little owl flying around breathing fire or lightning. For some reason, lightning coming out of an owl just sounds really cool to me.
So good. I love that. Yep.
Ultimately, it really is like a spy scouting kind of a thing. And I think it's a really good choice for utility spell at level 1.
I can't argue with that. On a Find Familiar was on my, like, it was going to be the spell I chose, and the only reason I did not choose it was because of the versatility of how Silvery Barbs could be utilized. But honestly, like, it's one of my favorite spells in the game, so I can't even say you're wrong. Like, you're not.
I would say that Find Familiar is more annoying on a DM than Silvery Barbs is.
Oh, now there's the hot take.
That is a hot take.
That's the hot take.
Oh man, that's the Connecticut pizza right there.
Moving on. Let's go with our third level spell choice. Jacob Tabletop, what do you have?
I went with a classic cleric spell, and I chose Aid. This is great from the moment you get it all the way up to level 20. You get 5 extra hit points, and they're not temporary. They stack on top of your normal maximum. It actually also heals you for that. And in a way, Lee, you said this, I'll say it off camera. I'm not even fully take credit for it. It's almost like a mass healing word because it is just an action. It lasts for 8 hours. And if you upcast it, it's more. You want to drop a level 5 aid, and everybody now has 25 more hit points for the day. This is just always good. More hit points, more better.
I 100% agree with that. Aid is one of my contenders for most underrated spells in all of 5th edition because people sleep on it so much. I think I've covered it in like 3 of my underrated spell videos just because of how, little people talk about it. But
it's not quite as sexy as like dealing damage or things like that, but
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
In terms of overall sex appeal, Aid is not there. But in terms of like, good old, it'll get you there, man. Aid's got the good old.
Well
right, moving on. Anyways,
Well
my choice for the spell, second level utility spell is invisibility, and I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think there's I don't think I really need to explain it. It can be useful in any different situation. You can even use it on your little familiar. Make that stealthy familiar more stealthy, being invisible, right? Who knows? There's multiple ways you could take it. And this is very specifically a utility spell because while it can be used in combat, it effectively falls off in combat. So there's multiple avenues of going about this, but invisibility is just the stereotypical cool thing you can think of. Like, it goes from Harry Potter to D&D to frickin' Lord of the Rings, however you want to look at it. It's got a place in every fantasy. So by far one of the best utility spells in the game.
I can't think of a single fantasy setting that doesn't have some form of invisibility at some point. It's a good argument to make. Let's talk about third level spells. What you got, Lee?
This one was so simple for me. And, well, maybe not so simple, but it was simple enough because every single campaign I've ever played in has this spell. And if they don't have this spell, they are incredibly upset with how stupid they were for not taking this spell. And that would be Sending. Sending in D&D, or any tabletop role-playing game for that matter, that does something that Sending does. Being able to communicate with people or creatures, NPCs, across vast distances is so immeasurably important when you're playing a game like this. I know in my campaign that we just finished, they're spanning 4 different continents with different important individuals on different continents. And no one took Sending until they were like level 13 and got like a Sending stone because I was sick of them complaining about it. So the impact that it can have on a campaign is massive, especially if you can't just willy-nilly teleport all over the place and you have to work with this kind of network of like this magical post office, if you will. So realistically, as far as utility is concerned, Sending is by far the most important spell, maybe in the entire game, if you're playing a more roleplay heavy style of game.
It's a very strong logistical spell. I think that's a fantastic choice. I think mine was a little more conventional. I chose Fly. It has uses in and out of combat. Obviously, it can make things 3-dimensional, but it lasts for 10 minutes. But I think one of the things that gets kind of slept on when it comes to Fly is that it also boosts your speed to 60 feet. And that's just great for so many things. Very straightforward spell. You can fly. You got the Peter Pan fantasy. Just need to think happy thoughts, Josh.
Oh, now I want to watch. Is it Hook? Right? Hook?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about Smee?
Watch
What
Hook.
about Smee?
It's funny when you said Fly. Everyone probably saw me make a face. I was thinking Dispel Magic, and I was like, I have Lee's list pulled up. I don't have yours pulled up. I'm like, surely Jake will say Dispel Magic, but Fly.
Yeah, one of the criterias that we had was we didn't want spells that felt kind of icky to use. And not that Dispel Magic is in that category, but well, in the combat video, Counterspell doesn't count for me. It feels
Yeah,
icky.
that's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of lumped them together in my head, but and Fly's fun.
I 100% agree, Josh. Dispel Magic is so important. It really is, because if you don't have it and you need it, you just kind of up a creek without a paddle, right? Like, but at the same time, I also get the feeling of when you have to cast it, you're like, wow, that was an impactful 3rd level spell slot. But man, I could be flying right now. You know?
So you agree Fly is the best choice?
No, I don't at all. Wait, I'm getting gaslit by my moderator.
We've
All
tricked you.
right, so let's move on to 4th level spells now that Lee has agreed that Jake is correct.
Wow.
You did use my example.
Oh,
I'm just
Right, Lee,
teasing.
why don't
but-
you
I should have paid an impartial third party to do this
you
moderation.
should sit there and think about what you did for a minute.
Jokes aside, Jake, why don't you tell us your 4th level spell choice?
Level 4, I went with my overall favorite and most versatile spell in the entire game, and that is Polymorph. You need to carry your friends across a river, you can turn into a giant eagle. You need to be a small little bird and scout somewhere, you got to turn into a fish. It doesn't matter really what the situation is. If there is a nature creature, 5e, they call them beasts. If there's a beast that can suit your needs, this spell is there for you to do it, and it can last for an entire hour. It's one of those kinds of things where it's like, if you can imagine it, it'll work for you.
And it doesn't have to be a beast of the land, beast of the sea, beast of the sky. It can be any beast.
Oh, no. Yes. Well said, Lee. Well said.
Polymorph's a great spell. I think I personally am in the camp that it's a bit overrated. Not that it's not powerful and super strong and amazing, but if you go on Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, wherever, there's so many people just like jerking this spell off, man. I swear. And it's a great spell, but I think part of the hipster in me is like, I don't like this spell anymore. So for that reason, I chose one of the frequent love affairs of Jake and my own as a teleport spell with Dimension Door. This is by far one of my favorite spells in the entire game. Right next to Misty Step, 2nd level, but we didn't talk about that. But Dimension Door is a really powerful teleport spell where you can teleport up to, I think it's like 300 feet with you and another party member, or 500 feet?
Yeah.
She's 500 feet.
Yeah.
Where you and another party member can teleport anywhere, and it doesn't need visual sight. It's just like, I'm going to teleport 369 feet that way, and you're there.
Nice.
It's just a fantastic spell. It can combo with so much. It can be used in combat for multiple different reasons. It can be used for, quick escapes. And honestly, it doesn't seem like it would be incredibly impactful, but it's a teleport spell that feels fun to use, and I think that's of huge importance to me. So, Dimension Door, by far the best.
I love the teleport spells, whether it's Dimension Door or Misty Step, like you said, or there's one that's like ice. No, it's thunder themed, right?
Thunderstep.
Thunderstep. Yeah, they're all wonderful. Let's move on to 5th level spells. Lee, tell me you have something interesting.
Maybe. It might be a little bit of a spicy take, but it is a very interesting and fun spell. I chose Telekinesis. Telekinesis is, in my opinion, one of those abilities or features that people that play these kinds of games really want to kind of lean into, and it's the only spell in the game that does something like that kind of psionic. It's the only base spell in the game that does that kind of psionic thing, where you control stuff with your mind. It can be used in combat to great effectiveness. It can be comboed with multiple other combat spells, but in terms of utility, you can move objects that weigh up to 1,000 pounds. That's a half a ton. You can move huge rocks with your mind that, let's be honest, even a barbarian wouldn't be able to lift that had like a 20 strength score. So like in terms of utility, actually, I guess that's bad because that just makes martial sound even worse. I don't want to talk about that. Never mind. Moving on.
They're strong enough.
Yeah. Your turn.
I love that pick. I love telekinesis things, and I think you can unleash your inner Jedi that way. But I went with another very bread and butter spell, and Lee, I know you really like this spell, and that's scrying.
Love it.
Information is power. Knowledge is power, and if you can figure out where someone is, you're trying to find them, like maybe someone's kidnapped, or you're trying to find the big bad, you have information at your disposal. It's one of those things, like as a DM too, every villain should have scrying, and every villain should pretty much almost always know what the group is up to.
Yep.
Kind of like if they don't, they're just not doing it right.
Yep.
I'm with you. I think both of those are excellent choices, and telekinesis slept on. I don't think I've ever seen someone choose that before, but it's obviously a great choice. One other thing it's not my choice, but I've just found out that there's a spell called Dance Macabre, and that's fun. It looks pretty cool. It's also the name of a really great classical music piece. So check that out. With that being said, Jake, we're moving into the big leagues now with 6th level spells. What do you have for your choice?
I went with something that is one of the probably must prepare spells for the druid, and that is transport via plants. I think all you have to do is you have to know of or seen or touched a destination plant that's large enough to accommodate the people that want to move through it, and it's kind of just like a portal that's open for a whole round. As long as it's on the same plane of existence, you just go anywhere that you've been before. Very straightforward. Lee, you were talking earlier about people that needed the sending problem. Well, if they were level 13 and had a druid, they wouldn't have as much of a problem because they could just go there. I just like that. I like the flavor of it too. Like Mother Earth is connected throughout the entirety of the planet. There's just something really cool about it in terms of how it's used and the flavor and just the spirit of the spell. I really like that.
I love what you just said. The idea of like all of the roots are connected. It just depends on how deep you go, on how deep those roots go, right?
Yes.
That's really interesting. Lee, what do you have?
So 6th level is a weird one for me because there's a bunch of spells that are kind of combat oriented that are also kind of utility and like RP oriented. So I have 2, and you guys tell me what you will accept for the answer for this one. I actually could technically have 3, I suppose. My first initial one that I put down was Hero's Feast, because that's a preparation spell. It is definitely, it is meant, it's fair. It is definitely a combat-oriented preparation spell, but that was the first one. The other one I wrote down is Druid Grove. Yeah, so you cast it over like a large area, and it infuses the area with like magic. So it like makes fog, it makes animated trees, it makes like entangles around the area. And you can place like spike grows, gusts of winds, and wind walls all throughout the entire area. So it's a preparation spell as well as it's a combat preparation spell similar to Hero's Feast. Which one will you accept?
The one you'd like to choose.
I was hoping you'd tell me.
No, just kidding.
Both subtly, just like
I'm gonna do Druid Grove. I wrote down Hero's Feast because it's fantastic and I really should talk about it. But you said the Druid teleport with plants. I gotta go with the theme now.
I got you going.
You got me going. You got my goat, man. You know me and the Druid. You know me and Druid.
Wood.
Yeah.
Oh, yikes.
So, anyways, got my banana.
Yes.
So Druid Grove, it's a great spell. You cast it over 10 minutes and it infuses like this. How big is it? It's like it's a 90-foot cube area that like infuses it with like this fog and animated trees, and you can place spike grows and wind walls and gusts of wind wherever you want. It's literally like you're guarding an area. It is the perfect preparation spell for when you know where a combat is going to take place. If you have an army coming to attack a village, if you have combat that you know is going to occur in a certain location in a certain amount of time, you can drop it on there. It lasts for 24 hours, and it's just so freaking cool how much it does. I really can't give it enough credit because it's just massive. So if you haven't heard about Druid Grove, you need to look it up because it's just a cool flavor. While it's definitely niche, it's by far one of my favorite flavored spells in the entire game.
Another great 6th level choice, Contingency.
That was my second choice.
That was my third choice.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Well, all 3 of us thought of it, so don't sleep on it. Lee, what do you have for your 7th level?
My 7th level is etherealness. And I must admit, for my top 3 for 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells, these ones are kind of, and I think you'll all agree with me, almost to a point where the choices are so slim that it's difficult to have arguments with any of these choices. So I chose etherealness to be a little bit different, where you can enter into the ethereal plane, which I think flavor-wise is fantastic, and you can effectively just traverse it. It's a very unique spell that I think I've never actually seen used in an entire game, but in my time looking for spells for this specific video, I came across it and I thought it was just fantastic. So in terms of utility, it's super interesting for sneaking into places you shouldn't be, not interacting with people around you. If you just want to be a complete sociopath and be away from everyone, it's great at the cost of a 7th level spell.
And everyone knows I'm the ranger person. I love rangers. I have to say, Horizon Walker, there's some weird things with it where it misses the mark for me a little bit, but it still has some really cool concepts. One of those is Ethereal Step. At 7th level, you can cast Etherealness without using a spell slot. That's pretty crazy. This is a 7th level spell. Anyway, Rangers, aren't they great?
This is the one reason we had him in the video.
I knew there'd be a ranger plug at some point.
Exactly.
I'll just wait till we do the combat ones.
There we go.
Jake, what did you choose for your 7th level?
My 7th level spell is very similar to my 6th level spell. I chose teleport. It's you got to get around the globe, and there you go. The main difference really is you don't have to have seen it, and if you haven't seen it or you're less familiar with things, then mishaps can happen, or you can go to slightly off locations or just a similar location. I think there's some fun things that can happen with it, but I do feel like it's kind of every wizard needs to take teleport. You know, it's one of those where it's like, well, we have to have a way to get around quickly if we need it, right? It's almost like I gotta take this spell, almost like you're obligated. And when that's the case, it's still fun to use. I love transportation kinds of things, but when it's one of those spells, I think that it's like a have to have. And to say that for a utility spell at this level of the game, I think says a lot.
We're nearing the end. We have 2 levels left. Jacob Tabletop, 8th level spell choice.
Well, Josh, if 1 is good, 2 is better, and I chose clone because if something, Josh loved that introduction. You create a duplicate of yourself, and if you get killed, your soul goes into the clone body, and it actually can also be younger than you. So if you want to have a villain that just keeps coming back time and time, it's like, how do they never age either? They look the same. They're not even an elf. It's a human. Let's look the same for 300 years. Yeah, because they keep making clones of themselves at 30 years old.
I love clone so much. I don't think it gets used enough. You know, if you are actually fighting something that's like insanely wealthy, insanely powerful, like they're gonna have just a room with just all of these clones, you know, and you're gonna keep fighting them until you find that room and you destroy it.
Yeah,
and
it's like all the rich people jokes about being cryo frozen.
yeah, exactly.
It's just the D&D version of it.
Lee, that's a hard one to follow up. What did you choose for your utility spell?
I chose telepathy. Now, this is another one of my kind of like favorite shticks in fantasy games where you can telepathically communicate with people. Effectively, you can create a link between you and another willing creature as long as they're on the same plane of existence as you, and you can just communicate with them via words, images, sensory messages, so like touch and stuff like that. And regardless of who you're doing that with, as long as they have an intelligence score of 1, they will be able to understand what you're saying. And I don't necessarily think that's even necessarily the important part. I think the part that really sticks out to me is that there's no range to it. It's just you cast this, and you could do this with someone on the opposite side of the world. It's literally a phone call in D&D as an 8th level spell. So that's actually the best way to look at it, right? Except they have to pick up the phone.
Reach out and touch someone.
It's like super sending.
Super sending. Yeah, I guess so.
You don't have to like plan out the 25 words. You're just like, nah, we're good. We're good.
I'd like to make a collect call. Hello. But yeah, telepathy. It's one of those spells that never gets used. Those 8th and 9th level spells, 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells are all pretty much spoken for with combat spells in D&D, which is a huge shame. But as far as utility is concerned, I think that's just a really cool feature to be able to pull off.
It's a big cost. You know,
It's
that
huge
8th level
cost.
spell.
Yeah.
Spell slot. But exactly what you said. If you need to contact someone on the other side of the globe, or maybe your D&D world is flat, unlike the Earth.
Oh no! Don't trigger my audience. Come on.
Oh, man, I have a friend who is a flat earther, and I'll leave it at that. Final choice for your 9th level spell slot for utility. What are you choosing, Lee?
You know, it's really funny. It's come full circle at this point because I talked a lot of smack about polymorph at 4th level, but I think at 9th level I chose mass polymorph. I mean,
You hate it because you love it.
it's so stupid. Polymorph's a great spell. It's overrated because I'm a hipster. But at the end of the day, you can turn everyone in a bar into a sheep. That's just got to be worth something, right? Like, come on.
That's what
Exactly. I don't have much more to say other than that.
I was say,
Like-
you know, I like it. I approve, Lee.
Yeah.
Approve this message.
All right, so Lee gave us his final choice. Maybe it's a little hypocritical with mass polymorph when he hated polymorph to begin with. But Jake, what do you have for us?
I'm a little polymorph adjace, and I chose shape change. This is basically polymorph, except you're not limited to a beast form. The CR has to be equal to or less than your level, and at level 9 you're at least level 17, and that just opens up so many choices. So if you want to be a big old dragon, you can. If you want to, whatever you want to do, you're in good shape. I mean, if there's a creature in the game, shape change can let you use any tool that it has. Little polymorph adjace there, Mr. Lee.
You're losing points every time you say adjace. You've lost 5 points every single time you say that word.
Dang it.
Sorry,
not
that was
saying
way more
anything, 'cause
aggressive than it meant to be. I was just joking. You say whatever makes you happy, Jake. Clearly, I can't be the judge of who won here and who had the better list, which means that responsibility is passed on to you, the viewer at home. Let us know in the comments who had the better list, Jake or Lee. That's a banana, I think. And
Yeah, green screen really messes it up. Sorry.
it's all good.
Got a face. Look how happy he is. That's you if you subscribe. Look how happy you'd be.
And if you'd like to see more of this type of content, like specifically this type of content, we have a video on combat spells where we go through the whole list in combat spells, and then you get to decide who wins. We'll have to think of a prize for the winner or a punishment for the loser. Let's
Hate
talk more about that. See you guys next time.